Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. A busy week around here as we've tried to pour through the aftermath of the Maryland Terps fiasco and their game with Sparty this week, as well as whatever the Orioles are going to do. But it is Pittsburgh week here, and certainly the Ravens in great peril with a 4-4 record. And a pretty hot Pittsburgh Steelers team coming in for a rare 1 o'clock kickoff around here. This guy's done a lot of kickoffs over the last 4 decades with Steelers football. Bill Hillgrove has been the longtime voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's coming down. And a crazy week in Pittsburgh in a lot of different ways. Here, we're reeling from a football perspective, Bill. But up there, I think it's a whole different story with what's happened to your community this week.
Yes, it is. It's one of those things that you never want to see happen, and especially when it's close to home, it kind of hits you right between the eyes. So it's been a tough week for all concerned, and unfortunately, a couple of the victims were related to a former staffer from the Steelers, and Mike Tomlin had to move his Monday news conference back an hour so he could attend the service. It's just a sad time.
Well, and I know what a close-knit community Pittsburgh. Everyone knows everyone. As you've mentioned, Coach Tomlin was involved, and I know I chatted with him a little bit on Wednesday about it, being close to home for him from where he lives. The organization was involved with a member. I mean, this literally did touch everyone in Pittsburgh, and I think this is a time in a community like yours where I saw the Penguins did some amazing things as well, and the Pirates had gotten involved. This is a time where sports can be a part of the healing that goes on in a community like that. And I think the Steelers were the first folks who sort of stepped up and were a part of all of this and trying to bring the community together.
Yes, it's a tight-knit community, and I think that was proven. Not that you need a tragedy to prove that, but, it underscores the fact that Pittsburgh is, it's a big little town is what it is.
Bill, for the football team right now, a different story, right? I've told the story all week. We were there together 5 weeks ago, feels like 5 minutes ago, right? That we're walking out of Heinz Field. The Ravens are 3-1, smack the Steelers around, questions abound. The Steelers' offensive line waiting on Le'Veon Bell. Wow, a month later, it's a whole different story, and I thought it would have been a different story with a 3-1 Ravens team at that point that looked to be trending in the right way. The storylines have completely reversed here this week.
Sure. And I think the 14-0 Ravens lead, they came out and kind of sucker punched the Steelers, and it took them out of their running game. And at that point, Ben and Antonio Brown still hadn't gotten on the same page because in training camp they never threw a meaningful or caught a meaningful pass together. And I think that chemistry had to come around. It did. The bye helped. And, this is a different team since then. And I think their defense is getting better. They're better able to cover their warts. Every team has them. But the Steelers, as everybody knows, the back seven has been kind of a fluid situation. And I think they're finding role players. And as Keith Butler moves forward, I think he's going to do a better and better job at limiting opposition offenses to certainly fewer rushing yards, and obviously the sore spot was passing yards.
Well, Bill, nobody around here is waving a terrible towel. We're all purple through and through. We love all parts of this rivalry. But one of the things that we hate about it is when you think you got the Steelers down, when you beat them bad in their place early in the year, here they come back at 4-2-1, and I look up and I say, all the guys that were maligned, where's Hayden in all this? Where's Bud Dupree? Hayward and Tuitt and these guys, and where were they that night? The last month, the defense has been so much better. The offensive line has gotten healthier than maybe it was at the start of the season, and it's all the same names, right? I mean, they've really spent a lot of resources on keeping that offensive line together, which keeps the quarterback whole. He hasn't been sacked a whole lot, and he was harassed a whole lot that night as he had to pass a lot. But all the things that were warts that night feel like they've gone away a little bit over the last month, right?
Yeah, and, that offensive line, it's no question, it's the best one Ben's ever been behind, and, he's benefiting from that. And I really think that, it's given him an opportunity to have the game become even, slower. And he sees it slow now anyhow. And, the great ones, they play their best ball after the age of 30. And I'm seeing that with Ben Roethlisberger. When people say, and Ben he likes to throw out little things that people jump on. And say, oh, he's thinking about retirement. I don't think so. I think Ben's around at least 3 more years, if not beyond. Also, against Cleveland, Mike Tomlin gave the bigs, both sides of the ball, credit for, dominating the line of scrimmage. And somebody asked a question at his news conference on Tuesday, said, well, did the Baltimore Ravens dominate the line of scrimmage? And he paused for a second and said, I think it was possession downs. And if you look at the stats, they're glaring. Baltimore was 8 for 17 on third down, and the Steelers in that game were 2 of 12. Well, since then, for Pittsburgh, that's changed. And I think that's going to help this team.
And that's changed for the Ravens defense getting off the field at that sort of a clip in a place like Pittsburgh on the road, where this has been a real struggle here, Bill, last couple of weeks. And one thing that certainly has changed from the Pittsburgh perspective, and I know I chased you around about a month ago. We did not chat before or after the game, but everyone I chatted with there, I talked about the legend of James Conner. My wife's a 2-time cancer survivor, so I know from the inside of what that looks like, and seeing that kid in the building next door. I called him a local legend, and he was still sort of trying on the helmet, a month ago, and now it looks like it fits pretty nicely into what they wanted Le'Veon Bell to be in the offense as far as an all-purpose kind of back, and he has really grown into the system there that there are no more questions about him, and I don't hear a whole lot about Le'Veon Bell this week, right?
Well, and the Steelers are looking at it that way. Somebody asked the question of Tomlin Tuesday about Le'Veon, and he goes, is there another question out there? And he just laughed and walked out of the room. That's the way their mindset is. They're prepared to move on without him, whether he comes back or not. And I think regardless of what happens, he's gone next year, and James Conner is the future. And James is doing everything that Le'Veon did, and probably maybe a little bit more. He's stronger than Le'Veon. And I watched a run last week against the Browns, about 17 yards. But he did everything in that run that a running back can do. He hit the hole quickly, stepped out of a tackle, took on a defender and stiff-armed him, spun, and got out of bounds on the near sideline. And if you look at it, I said, that's a highlight film there. And that's what he's giving this team. And as long as that happens, they probably won't miss Le'Veon.
Bill Hillgrove is the longtime voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers. All of our WNST coverage brought to you by our friends at Royal Farms. Real fresh, real fast eggnog. They want me to brag on the Cloverland eggnog that they've got there, so I'm happy to do that. Always tasty fried chicken and the Western fries. They always taste better when you get them for free. And you do that by using the ROFO Rewards card, as well as the app. Download that when you're pumping your gas. And our friends at Royal Farms will be taking care of you with more than just a 99-cent coffee. Bill Hillgrove is the longtime voice of the Steelers. He'll be calling the action here in Baltimore this week. And we mentioned the defense getting better, and certainly on the back end, Flacco had a little bit more fun up there than he usually has. And the Artie Burns benching and where they are with draft picks, and they've used so much of their draft arsenal on the defensive side of the ball and a lot of the money on the offensive side of the ball. But the defense has grown up as well on the back end. Helps when you can stop the run, though.
Well, I think a telling moment in this game against the Browns, the Browns obviously had a long down and distance, and you look, and the Steelers had 7 defensive backs on the field. They call it their dollar package, and Artie Burns was not one of them. And then after the game, it was revealed that he was late for the Saturday practice, and that was punishment. But Mike Tomlin assured everybody in the room that Artie had a good week of practice. So I look for him to return this week, and he's got to play through it. And Mike served the history lesson. Ike Taylor had his moments. All cornerbacks do. They all get burned at some point. The good ones don't get burned twice in a row and make it a habit. And I think he's got to play through that just as Ike Taylor did several years ago.
Bill, just looking at the stats, and I try to watch the Steelers week to week because, it's what we do around here when we're not watching our team, is watching yours, right? We know what Brown is, but Smith-Schuster, and looking at the output for yards, for catches, they're both on pace to catch over 100 balls, but there doesn't feel to be the third outlet as much if it's not Conner coming out of the backfield. The tight end was always something that really was the thing that would end the Ravens, was Heath Miller in those days, who would always be that 3rd and 6, he gets 6.5, right? And for their offense right now, has Smith-Schuster become something that is that second guy that is going to be good enough for Ben Roethlisberger the rest of the way?
Yeah, I call him Hines Jr. He's taller than Hines Ward. He's faster, but he's just as nasty. And he's, a real key figure in the downfield blocking. He's emerged, and he's made some great catches. The one in Cincinnati where he actually did a forward somersault, and he was down by contact because his helmet hit the ground short of the goal line, which, he was on top of the body, but they looked at it slowly. Sure enough, his helmet was down short of the goal line with the ball behind him, obviously, as he was in the middle of the somersault. So the guy, he's athletic, he's acrobatic, but he'll throw the blocks that you need down the field. So he's been a great addition. James Washington was a scratch last week. I don't know if he has health issues or not, but the third guy right now who's created a lot of havoc is Vance McDonald. This guy's tight end is, when he's healthy, he can be devastating. He's hard to bring down. I've never seen one guy bring him down unless it was a roadblock tackle. So, I think Ben has enough weapons to get by, because James Conner gets involved in the passing game, just like what was his name? Number 26.
Hey, we appreciate the visit here, and you won the Chris Schenkel Award, didn't you?
Well, yeah, it's more for longevity. I think was when I was with my 38th year with the Panther football team, and I was honored, and I gave the shortest speech in the history of that banquet at the Waldorf Astoria, which is no more as a hotel. I got up, and Chris Fowler handed me the award, and I leaned into the mic and I said, "Thank you, go Panthers." And I sat down, and I got a thundering ovation because I set the tone as the first speaker for the rest of them that night.
Well, I want to give you a chance to expand and talk a little bit about that, because you've done the Panthers as well, and call me ignorant to all things Pittsburgh. I've been coming to your town for the better part of 35 years, most of my life, quite frankly. I wasn't there in '79, but I was in spirit when the Pirates beat the Orioles. But I came all these years, and Coach Tomlin toured me around back after my wife beat leukemia the first time. We did a day with the Pirates there, and I was really ignorant to the fact that the Panthers and the Steelers work out of the same facility, park in the same parking lot, share a cafeteria, all that stuff that you would know on the inside. And, Connor being a part of that, and those programs, and with Flacco representing, going to work there for a little period of time in Pittsburgh. It's something that you've been a glue holding that whole thing together as well. You're a pretty busy guy on weekends in the fall, huh?
Well, I do all my work at the Southside facility. Don't any longer have to go to the TV station or the radio station for that matter, so that's very convenient for me. I get to park in that same lot too, which is, I guess, a very satisfying thing. But I have a chance, as a result, to bump into players and get the up-close and personal contact that I think, as a reporter, you need. I don't always cover all the open locker rooms, but I get to bump into them, and it helps. It really does.
Always a pleasure to bump into you. We'll be bumping into you on Sunday. Bring some of Mr. Rooney's cookies down from the press box there, and we'll have another slobber knocker, as we're used to here in the AFC North. We love this rivalry, and lo and behold, we look up and the Browns are browning again, right? I mean, you knocked the sails out of them and fired another coach, didn't you?
You know what? Somebody told me this, and I have to check it. The last 6 Cleveland coaches have been fired after losing to the Steelers.
It's an amazing statistic.
It is amazing.
Well,
it's insane.
It's an amazing history. I go back to when Art came here, brought the team here, all those years that the Browns would go to Pittsburgh and lose. Back in the Sipe era, all that, the whole era, that the weirdness of how we feel, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. You've had this thing with Cleveland a lot longer, and I certainly had their number a lot longer. And just when we thought they were going to get up and start to crawl and walk and run again, here we go all over again, and here we go all over again with another important game in the AFC North. Bill, always a pleasure, man. Take care of yourself.
All right, and I appreciate it, and I'll see you Sunday in Baltimore.
We will. Bill Hillgrove, the longtime voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Steelers Radio Network, and the Chris Schenkel Award winner. The reason I even bring that up is I watched Chris Schenkel as a kid, right? I mean, I was a bowling guy. Danny Wiseman comes on from time to time. He had his charity event last month, so there's a whole bowling thing. I didn't even get into it with Bill Hillgrove about his affinity for jazz and the Pittsburgh Jazz channel, but I'll do that next time. We'll do that. There'll be a next time. There's always a next time with Pittsburgh. Might be a next time in January if we're lucky. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNS TV channel. We're also out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world by downloading the TuneIn radio app. You can even listen in Pittsburgh or Somerset or anywhere in the Pittsburgh area. Robinson Township, where I always seem to spend my nights next to the Pittsburgh Airport that I've gotten to know. Better to get to know the Pittsburgh Airport than Breezewood. Those are your choices. You can drive through Breezewood or fly through Pittsburgh for $79. I've paid the Pennsylvania Turnpike plenty of tolls in my day. Had plenty of a Dairy Queen in Breezewood. I'm done with all that for now. Unless we do a bus trip in January. We can only hope for that at this point. Luke is in Owings Mills. We are monitoring all things happening with the Ravens. We're talking about the Terps in the aftermath of the disgrace of the DJ Durkin nonsense this week. And oh, by the way, they're playing Sparty on Saturday as well. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Get down to Laurel this weekend. Check out the Breeders' Cup. They sponsor our WNST morning newspaper, as do our friends at Planet Fitness, where it's always $5 down to $10 a month to get involved in that as well. And at some point, the Orioles will force us to send a WNST text. They, of course, brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford at Security Boulevard. Dennis Colazzos here on Thursdays, driving you home from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. I am Nestor. I am a very available individual. My dear Maryland letter coming its way out to WNST.net as well as a read on that through the weekend as we get ready for Steelers and Ravens. Plenty going on around here. Well, everywhere except the warehouse, I think. We are WNST.net. AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.